My name is Kelly, and I married Tom when I was young and full of dreams. We'd been high school sweethearts, and I thought we'd be happy forever. My father, a successful businessman who owned a furniture factory, gave us a beautiful house as a wedding gift. 3 years after the wedding, our son Michael was born. As the years passed, I threw myself into being the perfect housewife and mother. I kept our home spotless, cooked gourmet meals, and made sure Michael had everything he needed. Tom's career as a sales manager wasn't progressing as quickly as he'd hoped. One night, he came home frustrated and angry. "Damn it, Kelly. I can't take this anymore. I'm busting my ass at work, and for what? Pennies." He slammed his fist on the kitchen table, making me jump. "What do you want me to do about it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Tom's eyes lit up. "Your father. He could give me a job at his factory. A senior position. You could talk to him, couldn't you?" I hesitated. My father had always been fair in his business dealings, and I didn't want to take advantage of our relationship. But seeing the desperation in Tom's eyes, I nodded. "Okay, I'll talk to him." The next day, I visited my father at his office. "Dad, I need to ask you something," I began nervously. "It's about Tom. He's not happy with his job, and I was wondering if you might have a position for him here at the factory?" After a long moment, my father nodded. "All right, I'll give him a shot. But he'll have to prove himself like anyone else." When I told Tom the news, he was ecstatic. He picked me up and spun me around the kitchen. "You're amazing, Kelly. This is going to change everything for us." And for a while, it did. Tom started earning more money, and our financial worries eased. But as one problem faded, another grew in its place: my relationship with Tom's mother, Helen. Helen was a force of nature, fiercely protective of her only son and openly disapproving of me. She'd drop by unannounced, criticize my housekeeping, and demand my constant attention. One afternoon, as I was trying to get dinner ready, Helen burst through the front door. "Kelly, I need you to take me shopping right now." I gritted my teeth. "Helen, I'm in the middle of cooking. Can it wait until tomorrow?" Her eyes narrowed. "Are you saying my needs aren't important? After all I've done for this family?" I bit back a retort, knowing it would only make things worse. "Of course not. Just give me a few minutes to finish up here." As I drove Helen to the mall, listening to her complaints about my driving, my cooking, and pretty much everything else, I couldn't help but wonder how my life had become this way. I was an intelligent, capable woman, yet here I was, catering to everyone else's whims while my own dreams gathered dust. One particularly frustrating afternoon, Helen barged into our home unannounced, as usual. "Kelly," she called out, her voice grating on my already frayed nerves. "I'm hungry. Make me something to eat." Biting my tongue, I set aside the laundry and trudged to the kitchen. As I prepared a meal for Helen, she sat at the kitchen table, criticizing my every move. "You're using too much oil," she snapped. "And for heaven's sake, cut those vegetables smaller. Don't you know how to cook properly?" As I placed the finished meal in front of her, I hoped she'd eat quickly and leave. But to my dismay, she packed up all the food I'd prepared and stood up. "I'll be taking this with me," she announced. "I have bridge club tonight, and this will do nicely for snacks." I stared at her in disbelief. "But Helen, that was supposed to be our dinner." "Oh, you can always make more," she said, already heading for the door. "It's not like you have anything better to do with your time." As the door slammed behind her, I sank into a chair, feeling defeated. I glanced at the clock, realizing I now had less than an hour to prepare another meal before Tom got home from work. When Tom arrived, he found me frantically trying to get dinner on the table. "What's going on?" he asked, loosening his tie. "Why isn't dinner ready?" I explained what had happened with his mother, hoping for some understanding or support. Instead, Tom's face darkened. "Mom was here, and you didn't make her feel welcome?" he demanded. "Kelly, you know how important family is to me. You should have been more accommodating." Accommodating? I echoed, incredulous. Tom, she took our dinner. She treats me like a servant in my own home. Tom shook his head, clearly annoyed. You're exaggerating. Mom just wants to feel loved and appreciated. Is that too much to ask? As we ate the hastily prepared meal in silence, I couldn't help but feel a growing distance between us. Tom, once my high school sweetheart and closest confidant, now felt like a stranger across the dinner table. One evening, Tom came home from work in a foul mood. His face was red with anger as he slammed the front door behind him. Kelly, he bellowed. Your father is a tyrant, a despot. He humiliates people and uses them like pawns in his little game. I was taken aback. My father had always been fair and kind in my experience. What happened? I asked cautiously. Tom's eyes flashed with fury. I stood up for an employee today. Your father was treating him unfairly, and I couldn't stand by and watch. And you know what your precious daddy did? He fired me on the spot. My mind reeled. This didn't sound like my father at all. There must be some mistake, I said. Let me talk to Dad and hear his side. No, Tom roared, causing me to flinch. You will not speak to your father. You will not speak to your mother. As far as we're concerned, they no longer exist for us. Do you understand? Trembling, I nodded, too shocked and scared to argue further. In the days that followed, Tom found another job. He started earning well again, but the incident had changed something fundamental in our relationship. The warmth and love I once felt for him was replaced by fear and resentment. Years passed, and our son Michael grew up. He often asked about his grandparents, but Tom would shut down any conversation about them. You have one grandmother, he would say firmly. My mother. That's all you need to know. As Michael prepared to leave for college in another city, I felt a mix of pride and sadness. My baby was growing up, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing the only ally I had in this house. Over the next few years, my life fell into a monotonous routine. I catered to Tom's every whim and endured Helen's constant criticism. Without Michael as a buffer, their treatment of me grew even more oppressive. One afternoon, as I was scrubbing the kitchen floor under Helen's watchful eye, the phone rang. I reached for it, but Helen snatched it away. I'll answer it, she snapped. You focus on getting that floor clean. I can still see spots. I gritted my teeth and returned to my task, but I couldn't help overhearing Helen's side of the conversation. Yes, this is the residence of Kelly. Who? Her father? Helen's voice dripped with disdain. I'm sorry, but Kelly isn't available to speak with you. Please don't call again. My head snapped up. Wait. I called out, but Helen had already hung up the phone. That was your father, she said coldly. I told him not to contact you again. You should be thanking me for protecting this family from those toxic people. I felt a surge of anger and frustration. You had no right to do that, I said, my voice shaking. He's my father. I should have been allowed to speak to him. Helen's eyes narrowed. You ungrateful little. Just then, Tom walked in. What's going on here? He demanded. Helen immediately put on a hurt expression. Oh, Tom, your wife is being so disrespectful to me. After all I do for this family. Tom turned to me, his face dark with anger. Is this true, Kelly? Are you disrespecting my mother? I opened my mouth to explain, but the words wouldn't come. I realized with a sinking heart that it didn't matter what I said. Tom would always take Helen's side. A year passed since that fateful phone call from my father. Life continued its suffocating routine, with Tom and Helen's control over me growing tighter by the day. Then, on a crisp autumn morning, everything changed. The phone rang while I was preparing breakfast. Tom was in the shower, and Helen hadn't arrived for her daily inspection of my housekeeping. For once, I was able to answer without interference. Hello? I said tentatively. Kelly? Is that you? The voice on the other end was familiar, yet distant, my father's voice. "Kelly, it's your mother. She's very ill. The doctors, they don't think she has much time left. She needs you. We both do." Just then, I heard the bathroom door open. Tom would be down any minute. "I'll try, Dad. I promise I'll try," I whispered before quickly hanging up. When Tom entered the kitchen, I was fighting to compose myself. "Who was that on the phone?" he asked suspiciously. I took a deep breath. "It was my father. My mother is very ill, Tom. She's dying. I need to go see her." Tom's face hardened. "Absolutely not. We've been through this, Kelly. Your parents don't exist for us anymore." I felt something snap inside me. For the first time in years, I stood up to him. "I'm going, Tom. With or without your permission. She's my mother, and I won't let her die without saying goodbye." Tom's jaw clenched. "Fine. One day. That's all you get. And then you come back home where you belong." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. One day was better than nothing. With shaking hands, I called my son Michael and told him what was happening. To my surprise and relief, he immediately offered to accompany me. The next morning, Michael and I set off for my childhood home. When we arrived, my father met us at the door. He looked older than I remembered, grief etching deep lines in his face. Without a word, he pulled me into a tight embrace. He led us to my mother's room. She lay in bed, pale and frail, but her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Kelly," she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. "My baby girl." I rushed to her side, clasping her hand in mine. "Mom, I'm here. I'm so sorry. Can you ever forgive me?" She smiled weakly. "There's nothing to forgive, sweetheart. I'm just glad you're here now." We spent the day by her bedside, sharing memories and making up for lost time. As the sun began to set, my mother's breathing became labored. She squeezed my hand and looked into my eyes. "Kelly," she said softly. "Promise me you'll live your life. Really live it. Don't let anyone cage your spirit again." Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. "I promise, Mom. I promise." She smiled one last time, then closed her eyes. Her hand went limp in mine. She was gone. Suddenly, my phone began to ring incessantly. I knew without looking that it was Tom. I answered the call, moving to the hallway for privacy. Tom's voice, sharp with anger, cut through the line. "Where the hell are you, Kelly? You were supposed to be back hours ago." "Tom, I can't leave yet," I stammered, my voice thick with emotion. "My mother just passed away. I need to stay for the funeral." "Absolutely not," he roared. "I told you one day, and that's all you get. If you're not back by tomorrow, don't bother coming back at all." His words hung in the air, a threat and a promise all at once. For a moment, I was tempted to give in, to rush back to the life I knew. But then I remembered my mother's last words, urging me to live my life fully. "Fine," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm staying." I ended the call before he could respond, my heart pounding. I had just defied Tom for the first time in our married life, and it was both terrifying and exhilarating. The next few days passed in a blur of grief and preparations. On the day of the funeral, as we stood solemnly around my mother's grave, my phone began to ring again. Tom's number flashed on the screen. Without thinking, I pressed the speaker button, if only to quickly silence it. Tom's voice, loud and angry, burst forth for all to hear. "Kelly, this is your last chance," he yelled. "If you don't come home right now, I swear I'll come and drag you back myself. You ungrateful filth, after everything I've done for you." I quickly ended the call, my face burning with shame and anger. The mourners around us looked shocked, and Michael's face was a mask of fury. My father looked more concerned than anything else. He pulled me aside as soon as the service was over. "Kelly," he said gently, "we need to talk." We walked to a quiet corner of the cemetery, and my father took a deep breath. Sweetheart, there's something you need to know about Tom. Something I should have told you years ago. I listened in stunned silence as my father revealed the truth about why Tom had really left the company all those years ago. It wasn't because he had stood up for an employee. It was because my father had caught him stealing money from the company and clients, manipulating prices, and pocketing the difference. I fired him to protect the company and our clients, my father explained. I didn't tell you because I thought you loved him, and I didn't want to come between you. But now, hearing how he speaks to you, seeing what your life has become, I can't stay silent anymore. I felt as if the ground had opened up beneath my feet. All these years, I had believed Tom's lies, allowed him to cut me off from my family, endured his and Helen's emotional abuse. And it had all been based on a lie. There's more, my father continued, his voice grave. I recently heard from a friend that Tom's company is under investigation. There are discrepancies, Kelly. I think he might be up to his old tricks again. As the full impact of his words hit me, I felt a strange mix of despair and liberation. The life I had known was crumbling around me, but from its ashes, I saw a chance for a new beginning. The day after the funeral, my father, Michael, and I decided to return to my house. To our surprise, we found the house bustling with activity. Helen's friends were milling about, and the smell of food wafted from the open windows. We walked in to find a full-blown party in progress. Helen, holding a glass of wine, spotted us first. Her eyes narrowed as she took in my father and Michael. "Well, look who finally decided to grace us with her presence," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're late, Kelly. My birthday celebration started hours ago." I was momentarily stunned. In all the turmoil of the past few days, I had completely forgotten about Helen's birthday. Before I could respond, she thrust a dirty rag into my hands. "Don't just stand there," she snapped. "Start cleaning up. These tables won't wipe themselves." My father, who had been silently observing, suddenly erupted. "How dare you speak to my daughter that way?" he thundered, causing the room to fall silent. "She's not a dog to follow your commands. She's a grown woman who deserves respect." Helen laughed derisively. "Respect? She gave up any right to respect when she married my son. Her family is Tom and me now. You're nothing to her anymore." I watched in disbelief as my father and Helen argued, their voices rising. The party guests looked uncomfortable, unsure whether to leave or stay. Suddenly, Tom burst into the room. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded, his eyes locking onto me. "Kelly, why aren't you serving the guests? And what are they doing here?" He gestured angrily towards my father and Michael. Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up frustration and anger came pouring out. "No, Tom," I said, my voice steady and clear. "I'm not serving anyone. I'm not cleaning up. And I'm not staying silent anymore." The room had gone deathly quiet. Even Helen seemed at a loss for words. "I know the truth, Tom," I continued, pulling out the divorce papers I had hastily prepared. "I know why you really left my father's company. And I'm done. I want a divorce." For a moment, Tom looked like he might lunge at me. But then, perhaps realizing he was outnumbered, he deflated. "Fine," he snarled. "Take your divorce. But don't think you'll get a penny from me." I couldn't help but laugh. "This house is mine, Tom. My father gave it to us as a wedding gift, remember? You're the one who needs to leave." Tom and Helen left shortly after, shooting venomous glares our way. As the door closed behind them, I sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. Michael, who had been quietly observing everything, finally spoke up. "Mom, why didn't you tell me things were so bad?" "I'm sorry, Michael," I said. "I thought I was protecting you. But I realize now that I was just teaching you the wrong lessons about love and respect." In the weeks that followed, my life transformed dramatically. The divorce proceedings began, and I threw myself into rebuilding my life. My father, true to his word, stood by me every step of the way. One afternoon, as we sat in his study discussing the future, my father broached a subject I hadn't expected. "Kelly," he began, his voice gentle but serious, "I've been thinking. I'm not getting any younger, and the factory needs new blood. How would you feel about coming to work with me?" I blinked in surprise. "Me? But Dad, I don't know anything about running a business." He chuckled. "Neither did I when I started. You're smart, Kelly. You can learn. Besides, it's about time you had a chance to spread your wings." Over the next few months, I immersed myself in learning the business. My father was a patient teacher, guiding me through the intricacies of running a furniture factory. I discovered a passion for design and innovation that I never knew I had. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings dragged on. Tom, true to form, fought me every step of the way. He contested the ownership of the house, and even attempted to turn Michael against me. In the end, justice prevailed. I was awarded the house and substantial financial compensation for years of emotional abuse. Tom, facing charges for his fraudulent activities, found himself deep in debt and unable to hold senior positions anymore. As for Helen, she faded into the background, her influence over my life finally broken. The last I heard, she had moved in with a distant relative, her social circle diminished after the truth about Tom came out. 3 years passed in what felt like a blink of an eye. Then, one sunny morning, my father called me into his office. His face was solemn as he gestured for me to sit. "Kelly," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "I'm not well. The doctors, they don't think I have much time left." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "Dad, no," I whispered, reaching for his hand. He squeezed my fingers gently. "It's okay, sweetheart. I've had a good life. And now, I can go knowing that you're strong, that you're free, that you'll be okay." Tears streamed down my face as he continued. "I'm leaving everything to you, Kelly. The business, the house, all of it. You've more than proven yourself. I know you'll take good care of it all." In the weeks that followed, we spent as much time together as possible. My father's condition deteriorated rapidly, but his spirit remained strong. He passed away peacefully in his sleep, leaving behind a legacy that I was now responsible for carrying forward. The news of my father's passing and my inheritance spread quickly through our small town. I was still adjusting to my new reality when an unexpected visitor arrived at my doorstep. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when I heard the doorbell ring. Opening the door, I was shocked to see Tom standing there, a bouquet of flowers in his hand and an apologetic look on his face. "Kelly," he said, his voice softer than I'd heard it in years. "I'm so sorry about your father. May I come in?" Warily, I stepped aside to let him enter. We stood in the foyer, an awkward silence hanging between us. Finally, Tom spoke. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Kelly. About us, about our life together. I know I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But I've changed. My mother, she passed away last month. She was the one who always came between us. Now, there's nothing stopping us from being happy together again." As I opened my mouth to respond, I heard the sound of a car pulling up in the driveway. A moment later, the front door opened, and a tall, distinguished-looking man walked in. "Kelly, darling, I'm home," he called out, then stopped short when he saw Tom. Tom looked between us, confusion and anger dawning on his face. "Who the hell is this?" he demanded. The man stepped forward, extending his hand to Tom. "I'm David, Kelly's husband. And you are?" Tom ignored the outstretched hand, his face contorting with rage. "Husband? What the hell, Kelly? You remarried? You traitor!" David's expression hardened. He stepped between Tom and me, his voice low and dangerous. "I suggest you leave now, and never speak to my wife that way again." Tom lunged forward, but David was quicker. He caught Tom by the arm and firmly escorted him to the door. "This is your only warning," David said calmly. "Stay away from Kelly. If you ever come near her or insult her again, you'll regret it." With that, he shut the door in Tom's face. As the sound of screeching tires faded away, David turned to me, his face softening with concern. "Are you okay, love?" I nodded, stepping into his embrace. "I'm fine. I'm just glad you're home." I looked up at him, a smile playing on my lips. "And I'm glad you waited for me after all these years." David chuckled, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "I've loved you since high school, Kelly. I would have waited forever if I had to." As we stood there in each other's arms, I marveled at how life had come full circle. David and I had been high school sweethearts before Tom came into the picture. After my divorce, we had reconnected, and our old feelings had blossomed anew. We'd married in a quiet ceremony 6 months ago, starting a new chapter in both our lives. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Michael. "Mom, great news. Jessica's pregnant. You're going to be a grandmother." In the months that followed, life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Michael and his wife Jessica moved back to our city, eager to be close to family as they prepared for their baby's arrival. They joined us at the factory, bringing fresh ideas and energy to the business.
Hey there, I'm Linda. I'm 22 and about to graduate from college. Exciting times, right? Well, let me tell you, getting here wasn't exactly smooth sailing. My mom, Sandra, had a unique parenting style. "Darling, you simply must wear the Gucci dress to your graduation dinner. It costs a fortune, and everyone will be watching," she'd say. That was my mom, always focused on appearances. Me? I was happiest in jeans and a t-shirt, but arguing with her was like talking to a brick wall. "Mom, I want to wear something casual. It's not a red carpet event," I protest. "Nonsense. You're my daughter, and you'll dress appropriately." End of discussion. Yep, that's how our conversations usually went. But thank God for my dad, Michael. He was my rock, always in my corner. "Princess, wear whatever makes you comfortable. It's your day, after all," he'd say with a wink when Mom wasn't looking. He made everything bearable. Even though he ran a successful business, he never let it go to his head, unlike Mom. Then, there were my lifelines outside the house. My best friend, Zoe, and my boyfriend, Travis. "Girl, you're going to crush that valedictorian speech," Zoe squealed over the phone. "Thanks, Z. I'm nervous, but excited too." "You've got this, babe," Travis reassured me later that day. As graduation got closer, things at home started to feel off. Mom and Dad were having these hushed arguments when they thought I couldn't hear. "Sandra, we need to tell her. It's not right to keep this from her any longer," Dad would say. "Absolutely not, Michael. You promised we'd never speak of it. Don't you dare ruin this for me," Mom would snap back. I had no clue what they were talking about, but it left a knot in my stomach. Still, I tried to stay focused on my future. I had great job prospects lined up, and I was ready to start the next chapter of my life. Little did I know, everything was about to change. If I had known what was coming, I might have skipped graduation altogether. But life doesn't come with spoiler alerts, does it? So, there I was, thinking it was just another milestone, completely unaware that I was about to get the biggest shock of my life. Graduation day. I woke up feeling like I was on top of the world. This was it, the culmination of all my hard work. I could barely eat, my stomach was doing somersaults. "Linda, sit up straight and eat. You'll need your strength today," Mom said, her voice as sharp as ever. Dad smiled warmly. "You're going to do great, sweetheart. We're so proud of you." The drive to the ceremony was tense. Mom fussed over my hair, my gown, everything. Dad was unusually quiet, and I figured they were just as anxious as I was. As I took my place on stage, I scanned the crowd. There were my parents, Zoe and Travis, all beaming. I took a deep breath and started my speech. "Fellow graduates, esteemed faculty, family, and friends, today marks not just the end of our academic journey, but the beginning of our future. We've persevered through late nights, tough exams, and countless challenges. But we didn't do it alone. Our families have been our backbone, our support system." I grew more confident with every word. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. I felt invincible. But then I noticed movement in the audience. My mom was standing up. Weird? I thought maybe she was just emotional. But then she spoke, her voice ringing through the auditorium. I have an announcement to make, she said. I froze. Linda is not my daughter. She's not even Michael's daughter. She's adopted. The world stopped. I couldn't breathe. Was this some kind of sick joke? Gasps echoed through the auditorium as I stood there, frozen. I looked at my dad, praying for confusion or denial on his face, anything to prove this wasn't real. But all I saw was guilt, heavy and raw. I ran. I don't remember leaving the stage or pushing through the crowd. My legs just carried me until I found myself in an empty classroom, gasping for air. The door creaked open, and there stood Sandra, her face an emotionless mask. Why? I choked out. Why now? Why like this? She shrugged, her indifference chilling. You needed to know the truth. You're not ours. You never were. How could you do this to me on my graduation day? Oh, please, don't be so dramatic. It's not like it changes anything. You're still you, she replied with a dismissive wave. But it did change everything. My whole life suddenly felt like a lie. The door burst open again. Dad rushed in, his face etched with worry. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. This isn't how we wanted you to find out. We spat. You knew too. This whole time. He nodded, tears filling his eyes. We adopted you when you were a baby. Your birth mother. She passed away shortly after you were born. We always meant to tell you, but what? You thought lying to me for 22 years was better? I couldn't keep the venom out of my voice. Sandra scoffed, crossing her arms. Oh, stop being so self-righteous. We gave you everything. A good home, education, opportunities. I stared at her in disbelief. Get out, I whispered. Both of you, just get out. They left, Sandra's heels clicking against the floor, while Dad looked back, his face twisted with pain. My phone buzzed again and again. Probably Zoe and Travis trying to reach me, but I couldn't face anyone right now. How could they do this? How could they let me live a lie my entire life? And Sandra, no, not Mom anymore. How could she be so cruel as to announce it in front of everyone? I don't know how long I sat there, my mind spinning, the foundations of everything I thought I knew crumbling. Eventually, I knew I couldn't hide in that classroom forever. But I couldn't face the crowd either. So I did the only thing I could think of. I slipped out the back and called an Uber. As the campus disappeared behind me, it felt like I was leaving more than just a building. I was leaving behind the person I thought I was. Now, I had to figure out who I really am. For the next few days, I holed up in my apartment, ignoring calls and messages. Eventually, Zoe and Travis wore me down. They showed up with pizza and refused to leave until I talked. Their support gave me the strength I didn't know I had. I realized it was time to uncover the truth about my past. We started by searching through my parents' house when they weren't around. In a locked drawer in Dad's study, we found it, a manila envelope. Guys, I think this is it, I whispered, my hands trembling as I opened it. Inside were adoption papers, birth certificates, and letters. My birth mother's name was Elena. She was young, single, and died from complications shortly after I was born. As we were leaving, Zoe's phone buzzed. That's weird. Olivia, Sandra's friend, is asking to meet you urgently. Says it's important. I hesitated but eventually agreed to meet her at a nearby coffee shop. Olivia looked anxious as she sat down. Linda, I'm so sorry about what happened at your graduation, but there's something you need to know about Sandra. My heart raced. What about her? Olivia leaned in, lowering her voice. I overheard her talking on the phone last week. She's planning something terrible. What do you mean? She wants to get rid of your dad, Linda. I think she might hurt him. I felt a wave of nausea. That's a serious accusation, Olivia. Do you have any proof? She nodded and pulled out her phone. I recorded some of her conversations. I held my breath as she hit play. Sandra's voice came through, cold and calculating. Once Michael's out of the picture, all his assets will be mine. That brat hand won't see a penny. I just need to make it look like an accident. I almost dropped the phone. My hands were shaking so badly. There's more, Olivia said, her voice trembling. She's been talking to some shady people, planning something big. I stared at her, my mind reeling. Why are you telling me this? Because it's wrong, and you don't deserve this. That night, I sat down with Travis and Zoe, my heart pounding as I told them everything. We spent hours trying to figure out how to expose Sandra without putting my dad in danger. Finally, we had a plan. It was risky, but it was our best shot. The next day, I walked into Sandra's study, my hands trembling, but my voice steady. We need to talk. She looked up, irritated. What is it now? Sandra, I know everything. About your plans for Dad, the money, all of it. Her face went pale, then twisted with anger. You don't know anything, you stupid girl. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Her eyes widened in shock. Where did you get that? She hissed. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's over. You're not going to hurt my dad or anyone else ever again. Just then, Dad walked in, confusion etched across his face. What's going on here? I took a deep breath and played the recording again. Dad's face crumpled as he listened, disbelief giving way to horror. Sandra, how could you? He asked, his voice breaking. She tried to deny it, tried to explain it away, but the evidence was undeniable. Shortly after, Dad's lawyer arrived, and things moved quickly from there. Within a week, we had a family meeting. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and close friends gathered as Dad explained everything. The adoption, Sandra's betrayal, all of it. The room erupted in shock and outrage. Sandra stood in the corner, her face a mask of defiance, but I could see the fear in her eyes. I want a divorce, Dad announced, his voice steady. And I'm removing Sandra from my will, effective immediately. In the days that followed, news spread quickly. Sandra's friends stopped calling, she was uninvited from social events, and her carefully curated world began to crumble. As for Dad and me, we started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, but for the first time, it felt real. I'm so sorry, Han, Dad said one evening. For everything, I hope someday you can forgive me. I'm getting there, Dad, I replied softly. We both are. A year passed, and life changed in ways I never could have imagined. I threw myself into my new job, excelling beyond my wildest dreams. Travis and I were still going strong, and Zoe remained my rock. One day, I overheard some colleagues gossiping. Did you hear about that woman, Sandra? The one who tried to kill her husband for his money? Apparently, she can't show her face anywhere in town anymore. I felt a twinge of something, not quite pity, but a sad sort of understanding. Sandra had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. That night, as Travis and I walked home, I found myself smiling. What's got you so happy? He asked. I looked up at the stars. Just grateful, I guess. For you, for Zoe, for Dad. For the truth. As painful as it was, I finally know who I am, and where I came from, and I know who my real family is. He squeezed my hand. We chose you right back. As we walked on, I felt light, free. The past year had been the hardest of my life, but I had survived. More than that, I had thrived. Whatever came next, I knew I could handle it. Because now, I was truly me. The story has ended. What would you do if you discovered a loved one plotting against your family? How far would you go to protect those you care about? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Jasmine. Things took a drastic turn when I was 12. That year, my dad married Linda, and overnight, I had 3 new step-siblings, Mark, Amy, and Kate. Those early days changed everything, shaping the person I am now. The house had always felt too quiet, but when Linda and her kids moved in, it suddenly came alive with laughter. I remember trying to match their smiles, eager to fit in. Hey, I'm Jasmine. Want to see my room? I offered, mostly to Mark, the oldest, hoping to break the ice. He glanced at Amy and Kate before smirking. Maybe later, we're kind of tired from the move. Right, girls? Their nods sealed my first rejection, a sting I'd soon have to get used to. As days turned into months, the gap between us widened. Family outings left me trailing behind, and photo albums began to fill up. Albums I wasn't in. Once, during a Thanksgiving gathering, I worked up the courage to ask, Linda, can I be in the next photo with everyone? She glanced at my dad, who hesitated. Jasmine, this one's for the grandparents. They just want a picture of the grandkids, you know. The polite exclusion hit its mark. But I am family, aren't I? I asked, feeling my face flush. Kate, always the quiet one, tugged at Linda's sleeve and whispered just loud enough for me to hear. Why does she keep asking? Can't she see we're busy? After that, I found refuge with my camera, the one Dad had given me for my birthday. It became my constant companion, my way of being there without really being there. I started taking pictures, not of them, but of the world around me. Birds, trees, the light filtering through the leaves, anything that didn't remind me of the rejection. Years passed, but not much changed. High school graduations, birthdays, even casual barbecues. I was always there, but never truly included. When Amy got married, I wasn't in the wedding photos. I watched the photographer arrange them, every click reminding me of my place on the sidelines. Why don't you come stand with us, Jasmine? Mark joked once, his eyes filled with laughter. It wasn't a real invitation, just another moment for them to enjoy at my expense. Thanks, but I'm good here, I replied, camera in hand. Photography became more than a hobby. It became my escape, my voice. Every shot, every frame captured how I felt. I was no longer just Jasmine, the stepsister left out. I was Jasmine, the artist, the storyteller. My work started gaining attention, and soon, people began reaching out for photo shoots. One night, Kate called. Her tone was unusually warm. Hey Jasmine, I saw your shoot in that magazine. We're having a family gathering next month. Maybe you could bring your camera, take some shots. I hesitated. That old desire to belong warred with the new sense of self I had built. I'll think about it, Kate. I'm pretty booked, but I'll let you know. After I hung up, I looked into my camera lens and saw my reflection, my face, hardened by years of rejection, but now framed by success. I no longer needed their approval to define me. The rhythmic click of my camera blended with the pulsing music at a high-fashion shoot. Models strode across the set, a whirlwind of colors and fabrics. Each shot felt perfect. My assistant handed me a new lens, her eyes wide with excitement. These are your best shots yet, Jasmine. This is incredible. I nodded, adjusting the settings with steady hands. Thanks, let's keep the momentum going. This issue could be a game changer. As the day wound down, my phone buzzed with missed calls. One voicemail was from Mark. As I listened, a knot tightened in my stomach. Hey, Jasmine. Saw your spread in Vogue. Look, Mom's birthday is coming up and we were wondering if you could do a family portrait. It'd mean a lot to everyone. The irony wasn't lost on me. Before I could even process his words, another call came in, this time from the editor of a major magazine. Is this Jasmine? We loved your series. We'd like to feature you as a rising star in our next issue. Interested? My heart raced. Absolutely. I'd be honored. I replied, my future now illuminated by the opportunities I had created for myself. The next few weeks blur together, filled with accolades and assignments. Articles about my work circulate, labeling me as the it photographer to watch. Invitations to exclusive events pour in, my name whispered in circles that once felt unreachable. At one such event, I run into Amy, unexpectedly. She looks out of place amidst the glittering crowd but approaches tentatively. Wow, Jasmine, you're really making a name for yourself, huh? Everyone's talking about you. Her voice carries a mix of awe and hesitation. I keep my response cool, professional. Thanks, Amy. Hard work pays off. She nods, glancing around awkwardly. Listen about the family portrait. I cut her off, not wanting to reopen old wounds. I'm really booked, Amy, but I can recommend some great photographers. The distance in my voice is unmistakable. Her attempt at reconciliation, too little too late. As the evening unfolds, I mingle with industry giants, my confidence soaring. The compliments feel like vindication, washing away the sting of years spent on the sidelines. When I return home, I update my social media with highlights from the event. The likes and comments flood in, each one a testament to my newfound status. Among the well-wishers, I spot comments from Kate and Mark, their words now dripping with admiration. But as I sit back, reflecting on my journey, I realize the only approval I ever needed was my own. The family photos that once excluded me no longer matter. In this world, I'm the creator of my own narrative, finally in focus. The studio lights dim as I pack up my gear after a particularly grueling but successful shoot with a rising pop star. My phone lights up with a message from Kate, a rare gesture given our limited communication over the years. Jasmine, you're everywhere. Think you could do a quick family shoot for us? It's been a while, and it'd be so cool to showcase your work. Her sudden warmth leaves me contemplative but wary. I type a brief response. I'll think about it, Kate. My schedule's really tight. Days later, at a family gathering hosted by Linda, the atmosphere shifts noticeably as I arrive. Mark, Amy, and Kate hover nearby, their smiles a bit too eager, a stark contrast to the cold shoulders of the past. Jasmine, look at you. The star of the family, Mark exclaims, clapping his hands as if our history were erased. We were just talking about setting up a big family photo. You should be front and center. The proposition hangs awkwardly in the air as I adjust the camera strap on my shoulder. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm good, I say calmly, my voice steady, a boundary I no longer wish to cross. Their faces falter, surprise etched in their expressions. Amy steps forward, a frown tugging at her lips. Come on, Jasmine. It's just a picture. For old time's sake. I shake my head, a small smile playing on my lips. Old times never really felt like good times for me, at least. I'll pass, but enjoy the photo. Turning away, I catch Linda's eye. She looks torn, perhaps finally understanding the years of exclusion that had weighed on me. As the evening progresses, the family gathers for the photo I set up on a timer for them. I step aside, observing from a distance, capturing the scene without being part of it. Later, as I review the images on my camera, Kate approaches hesitantly. Hey, Jasmine. About earlier, I guess we never really saw things from your side. It's okay, Kate. It's all in the past now. I've found my peace, I respond, my tone genuine but detached. My success has taught me the value of self-respect and choosing where I belong. As the party winds down, I leave with a sense of closure. My step-siblings' attempts at reconnection feel more like a reflection of their newfound admiration for my achievements rather than genuine affection. Yet the satisfaction of declining their photo offer lingers, a confirmation of my independence and self-worth. Back in my studio, bathed in the golden light of sunset, I pause to reflect on the journey that brought me here. Surrounded by the vivid images I've created, each photograph on the walls tells a story of triumph, a celebration of life as seen through my lens. It's a stark reminder of how far I've come, not just in my career but in my personal evolution. My phone pings with a message from a close friend and collaborator. Your spot is reserved at the gallery opening next week, Jasmine. Wouldn't it be the same without you? This message, filled with genuine warmth and inclusion, is everything I'd once longed for, a true reflection of the life I've built on my own terms. Over the years, I've built a new family, not one tied by blood, but by bonds formed through shared passions and mutual respect. Reflecting on the times I felt like an outsider in my own family, I realize now how those difficult moments pushed me to seek out people who truly appreciate and uplift me. I've nurtured relationships with friends, mentors, and colleagues who value me, not for my status or what I can offer, but for who I am. Sitting down at my desk, I pen a few thoughts in my journal, a practice that helps me reflect on my growth. Self-worth is not something given by others, but a treasure built from within, I write. This mantra has guided me through moments of doubt and rejection, reminding me of my intrinsic value beyond the need for familial validation. My thoughts drift to the recent family gathering where my calm refusal to join the staged photo wasn't out of spite, but a declaration of my independence. It was a moment of clarity. I no longer needed their acceptance to feel complete. My journey has taught me that the approval I sought most was my own. As I prepare for an upcoming international photography tour, excitement bubbles within me. This tour isn't just a showcase of my work. It's a testament to my resilience and the supportive community I've built. Each city on the itinerary promises new experiences, new stories to capture, and more opportunities to connect with fellow creatives who celebrate each other's successes. I look forward to the future with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit invigorated by the possibilities ahead. No longer anchored by past rejections, I'm free to forge my own path, embracing both the challenges and the triumphs that come with living authentically. My life, much like my art, is a continuous journey of discovery, and I'm eager to see where this newfound liberation takes me. Now, I have a question for all of you. Do you believe it's always necessary to seek reconciliation with family, even if they've hurt you? Or is it sometimes healthier to find closure on your own terms? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Jess, a 28-year-old graphic designer with a passion for creating beautiful visuals and apparently navigating the minefield of monster in-laws. Right now, I should be on cloud 9, planning my dream wedding to Mike, my boyfriend of 3 years. We met in the cutest little coffee shop downtown. It was a total rom-com moment. Imagine me spilling my latte all over his crisp white shirt. Instead of being mad, he just laughed and asked me out. From then on, it was like fireworks. My best friends, Sarah and Lily, have been absolute lifesavers through this whole wedding planning process. One evening, we were sitting in my living room, surrounded by bridal magazines and empty wine glasses, when Sarah brought up the dreaded topic. So, Jess, when are you going dress shopping? I groaned. I've been putting it off. Karen's going to want to tag along. Lily rolled her eyes. Mike's mom, the one who said your engagement ring would look better on a daintier hand. The very same, I sighed. It feels like she's been trying to sabotage this wedding from day one. Sarah leaned in, her detective instincts kicking in. You don't have to invite her, right? I wish, I said. But Mike thinks it would mean a lot to her, and I just want to keep the peace. Fast forward to the bridal boutique. My mom, Sarah, Lily, and of course, the infamous Karen were all seated on plush couches, waiting for my first dress reveal. I stepped out in a mermaid-style gown, feeling pretty confident. "Oh, honey," Karen said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Are you sure you want to emphasize your hips like that? Maybe something with a fuller skirt would be more flattering?" I forced a smile and retreated to try on the next dress. And the next. With each one, Karen's comments grew more cutting. "That neckline's a bit low, isn't it? We wouldn't want people to think you're desperate for attention. Lace at your age. Don't you think that's a bit, yum?" I was about ready to call it quits when the consultant brought in one last dress. It was vintage-inspired, with delicate beadwork and a soft, flowing skirt. The moment I put it on, I knew it was the one. When I stepped out, even Karen seemed momentarily stunned into silence. My mom teared up, and Sarah and Lily were grinning from ear to ear. "Well," Karen finally said, her lips pursed, "it's not bad. If you like that sort of thing." I caught her reflection in the mirror and saw something dark flash across her face. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by that plastic smile. "You look beautiful, sweetie," my mom said, squeezing my hand. I twirled in front of the mirror, feeling like a princess. "I think this is it," I breathed. "Are you sure you don't want to sleep on it?" Karen interjected. "It's such a big decision. You wouldn't want to rush into anything." Part of me wanted to buy the dress right then and there just to spite her, but I hesitated. It was a lot of money, and Mike and I were trying to stick to a budget. "You know what? Maybe you're right, Karen. I'll sleep on it and come back tomorrow." As we left the boutique, I couldn't shake the feeling I'd made a mistake, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the joy I felt in that dress. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I'll come back and make it official. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a kid on Christmas. I practically skipped through the doors of the boutique. "Good morning. I'm here to purchase the dress I tried on yesterday," I said, practically beaming. But the saleswoman's face fell and my stomach dropped. "I'm so sorry, but that dress was sold this morning." "What? No, that can't be right. I was going to buy it today. I'm afraid someone came in right at opening and purchased it. I'm so sorry." I stumbled out of the boutique in a daze, fumbling for my phone. Sarah picked up on the second ring. "They sold it, Sarah. Someone bought my dress." "No way. Are you serious? That's messed up." I spent the next hour on a three-way call with Sarah and Lily, venting my frustration. They were supportive, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. A week later, we had our monthly family dinner with Mike's parents. I was still bummed about the dress, but tried to put on a brave face as I set the table. When the doorbell rang, I plastered on a smile, but the moment I saw Karen, my jaw dropped. She was wearing my dress, the exact one I'd fallen in love with at the boutique. "Surprise?" Karen trilled, twirling in the doorway. "What do you think?" I just couldn't resist when I saw it in the window. I was speechless, my mind reeling. Mike's dad followed her in, looking uncomfortable. "Mom," Mike said, sounding confused. "Isn't that the dress Jess was going to buy?" "Oh, is it?" Karen asked, her eyes wide with fox innocence. "I had no idea. It just called out to me, and it's perfect for our vow renewal ceremony in 2 weeks." 2 weeks? I finally managed to choke out. "But that's right before our wedding." "I know." Karen clapped her hands together. "Won't it be wonderful? Like a pre-celebration for your big day." I could feel tears pricking at my eyes. "Karen, how could you? You knew I loved that dress." "Now, Jess," she said, her voice sickly sweet, "I'm sure there are plenty of other dresses out there. Don't be so dramatic." "Dramatic?" My voice was rising. "You bought my wedding dress for your vow renewal. It's not your wedding dress," Karen snapped back. "You hadn't purchased it yet. And really, it's much more appropriate for someone my age. You're young. You should be wearing something more youthful." I turn to Mike, desperate for support. Mike, can you believe this? But Mike just looks uncomfortable. Come on, Jess. I'm sure my mom didn't mean any harm. Isn't it nice that they're renewing their vows? We should be happy for them. I feel like I've been slapped. Are you kidding me? Your mother deliberately bought the dress she knew I wanted. Jess, you're overreacting, Mike says, his voice turning stern. It's just a dress. And Mom's right, there are plenty of others out there. Just a dress? I can't believe what I'm hearing. That was my dream dress, Mike, and your mother knew it. She's been trying to sabotage our wedding from the start. Now that's enough, Karen interjects, her tone icy. I won't stand here and be accused of such things. Mike, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Mike turns to me, his expression hardening. Jess, I think you need to calm down and apologize to my mother. That's the final straw. I feel something break inside me. Without another word, I grab my keys and head for the door. Where are you going? Mike calls after me. Anywhere but here, I snap, slamming the door behind me. As I drive away, tears stream down my face. I realize I've been betrayed by not just Karen, but Mike too, and I have no idea where to go from here. I end up at Sarah's apartment, a blubbering mess. As soon as she hears what happened, Lily rushes over. Before long, we're all huddled on the couch. I can't believe she did that. Sarah fumes, and Mike just stood there and let it happen. I nod miserably. He told me I was overreacting. Can you believe it? Lily shakes her head in disbelief. This is beyond messed up. There's got to be something we can do. Sarah gets that look in her eye, the one she gets when she's on a case. You know, as a PI, I've seen my fair share of monster-in-laws, but Karen, she takes the cake. I bet if we dig a little, we might find some skeletons in her closet. I don't know, I hesitate. That seems a bit extreme. Extreme? Lily scoffs. She stole your wedding dress, Jess. This woman needs to be taken down a peg. I bite my lip, considering. Well, I guess it couldn't hurt to look. Lily cracks her knuckles. Leave the tech stuff to me. I'll have her accounts cracked faster than you can say, mother-in-law from hell. For the next few days, we dig deep into Karen's past. Sarah uses her PI contacts while Lily works her tech magic. Meanwhile, I'm caught in a storm of Karen's meddling. She's changing wedding vendors behind my back, spreading rumors about me to Mike's family. Did you hear what Karen told Aunt Mildred? I vent to Sarah over the phone. She said I'm only marrying Mike for his money, as if I don't have my own career. That witch. She's unbelievable, Sarah growls. But hey, I think we've hit pay dirt. You're not going to believe what we found. I head over to Sarah's place, where she and Lily are huddled over a laptop. Okay, spill, I say, plopping down next to them. Lily turns the screen toward me. Remember Mike's ex, Amber? Turns out Karen sent her a series of nasty emails, pretending to be Mike. That's why they broke up. My jaw drops. Are you serious? Sarah nods grimly. And that's not all. We found out she's been embezzling money from the family business, funding her lavish lifestyle by cooking the books. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. I can't believe this. Should we tell Mike? Lily snorts. Tell Mike? Jess, he hasn't believed a word you've said about his mom so far. Why would he start now? She's right, and I know it. Every time I've tried to talk to Mike about Karen's behavior, he's brushed me off or accused me of exaggerating. So what do we do? I ask, feeling lost. Sarah leans forward, her eyes gleaming with determination. We expose her, at the vow renewal ceremony, in front of everyone. I hesitate. But that could ruin my relationship with Mike. Lily's voice softens. Honey, I hate to break it to you, but Karen's already doing that. And Mike's letting her. I think about all the times Mike has sided with his mother over me, all the times he's invalidated my feelings. Maybe Lily's right. Okay, I say, taking a deep breath. Let's do it. Let's expose Karen for who she really is. We spend the next week gathering evidence, emails, financial records, even recordings of her bad-mouthing family members. We compile it all. The night before the vow renewal ceremony, we meet for one final planning session. Are you sure about this, Jess? Sarah asks, giving me one last chance to back out. I think about Karen in my dream dress, about Mike's constant dismissal of my feelings, and about the future I'd be signing up for if I don't do something now. I'm sure, I say, my voice stronger than I feel. It's time Karen faced the consequences of her actions. As I lay in bed that night, I can't help but wonder, am I doing the right thing, or am I about to make the biggest mistake of my life? The day of Karen's vow renewal arrives, and I'm a bundle of nerves. Sarah, Lily, and I arrive at the venue, dressed to kill and ready for action. As Karen glides down the aisle in my dream dress, Lily gives me a subtle nod. She's in the AV system. Just as Karen reaches the altar, the screens around the venue flicker to life. Suddenly, Karen's voice fills the room. Of course, I sabotaged Mike's relationship with Amber. That girl wasn't good enough for my son. The crowd gasps. Next, financial records appear, clearly showing Karen's embezzlement from the family business. Then, screenshots flash up, showing Karen badmouthing various family members. The final blow comes as a recording plays of Karen admitting to buying my wedding dress just to spite me. Chaos erupts. Karen's husband, red-faced and furious, demands answers. Mike stands frozen, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. Karen tries to deny everything, but the evidence is irrefutable. In her panic, she stumbles, tripping over the stolen dress. She falls face first into the wedding cake, ruining both the gown and her makeup. Covered in frosting and mascara running, Karen looks around helplessly as her husband storms off, shouting about divorce. Mike approaches me, eyes pleading. Jess, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. But as I look at him, something clicks inside. No, Mike, you shouldn't have needed all of this to believe me. I deserve someone who trusts me, who stands up for me. I slip off my engagement ring and hand it to him. I think it's best if we end this here. As Mike walks away, shoulders slumped, I feel a weight lift off my chest. Ready to get out of here? Sarah asks. I nod, smiling, more than ready. We head to our favorite bar, where we toast to new beginnings and true friendship. As we clink glasses, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. For the first time in months, I look truly happy. Meanwhile, across town, Karen faces the consequences of her actions, alone. Her reputation in tatters, her marriage over, and her son finally seeing her true colors. As I sip my drink, surrounded by friends who have always had my back, I realize I've gained something far more valuable than a wedding dress or a toxic relationship. I've gained self-respect and the knowledge that I'm strong enough to stand up for myself. And really, that's the sweetest karma of all. Now we turn it over to you. If you were Jess, would you have forgiven Mike and given him another chance? Or do you think ending the engagement was the right call? Share your thoughts in the comments below.